Part 7. Echoes in the blacktop weeks past. No more whispers, no more visions in the mirror. Just open road and the rumble of the engine. Peaceful for once. I was hauling loads between Utah and New Mexico, staying far away from Route 93. Still, the road has a long memory, and it doesn't let go easy. I stopped at a small diner outside Socorro, middle of nowhere. The kind of place truckers call grit stops. Coffee like motor oil, pie older than you, but the stories are always fresh. I sat next to a guy named Murph. Long-haul veteran, looked like he'd lived half his life behind a windshield. Worn vest, greasy cap, leather hands. When I mentioned San Sombra, he froze. Didn't blink, didn't breathe. You've been there? I think so. Then you know, that place, it ain't on the map for a reason. He leaned closer. You ever hear of the Empty Mile? No. It's a mile of highway that doesn't appear on GPS. Right in the middle of your regular route, suddenly the world changes. Lights go out, signals drop. You think it's just a glitch, but then you see her, different every time. Sometimes it's a kid, sometimes a woman. Hell, I heard one guy saw a dog that talked, always asking the same thing. Can you take me home? That's when I knew she wasn't alone. There were others, other spirits, other hitchhikers lost between miles. And it wasn't just Route 93. It was everywhere. Murph showed me a message board on the dark net, truckers only, code locked, buried under fake job postings and GPS routes. They called it the Blacktop Archives. Inside were hundreds of posts, stories from truckers across the U.S., all describing something eerily similar. A stretch of road that didn't belong. A hitchhiker that wasn't quite right. Time loops, disappearing towns, ghost radio signals, and always a request for a ride home. Passenger spirits, one post read. They haunt the highways, not the places. They're not tied to houses or murder scenes. They're tied to motion. They're the ones who never made it. Still trying to finish the trip. I became obsessed, started mapping stories, tracking coordinates. They formed a pattern, not random but deliberate, like veins across a living body. All of them converging on certain points. One of them, San Sombra. Another, a decommissioned highway in West Virginia. Another still, a sunken causeway in Louisiana. Dead roads, forgotten places, graves built on asphalt. That's when it hit me. The woman on Route 93 wasn't the beginning of my story. She was the introduction. There were more like her, maybe dozens, maybe hundreds, and they were waking up. My next load was bound for Nevada. I should have said no, but the route passed close to the Arizona line, just north of Route 93. A night drive. The road stretched ahead like a black ribbon, slick with moonlight. Then, just past mile marker 241, the lights flickered. The CB hissed. And a voice I hadn't heard in weeks whispered from the dashboard vent, "She's not the only one." Part 8, the last ride. I've made my peace with the road, or so I thought. It's been a year since San Sombra, a year since I saw her, a year since the whispers stopped. I'd finished hauling freight across the Southwest and buried the ghost behind me, but every time I pulled into a truck stop, every time I walked into a diner, I'd hear the same story, over and over. You seen her yet? The woman on 93? They didn't mean it as a warning. It was just part of the conversation, like they were talking about weather or road conditions. And there were more. So many more. The stories didn't stop with her. They kept on. Hitchhikers, travelers, drivers who swore they saw the same thing. Strange, out-of-place figures on the side of the road. The same stories. The same questions. "Can you take me home?" I decided to go back. Back to the stretch of Route 93 where it started, where she started. But I wasn't running from it anymore. I wasn't scared, I was looking. The sun had barely dipped below the horizon when I rolled through the Nevada state line. The engine hummed in a way that felt almost familiar, like I wasn't driving alone anymore. I reached mile marker 241, where it had all begun, the moment the air shifted. I pulled off the highway as close to the shoulder as I could, parking the rig just outside the trees that grew near the roadside. No lights, no sound, just the low hiss of tires on the asphalt and the steady whisper of the wind. Then, just like that, something shifted in the air. The radio crackled. "You came back." Her voice. But it wasn't the same. It was deeper, more knowing. She wasn't a lost soul anymore. She had changed. I stepped out of the truck and walked toward the dark patch of road, feeling something old tug at my chest. Then, just like the first time, I saw her, standing under the trees. Her figure emerged from the shadows, her dress flowing. But now there was a power to her. She wasn't lost anymore, she wasn't asking, she was demanding. Her eyes locked with mine, but this time they weren't empty. There was understanding in them. Her mouth opened. "You know what I am now." I nodded. I knew. She was one of many. One of the lost, one of the forgotten. A passenger spirit born from tragedy, from the road itself. She wasn't just my story, she was every trucker's story. And she was done asking, done haunting, done waiting. I glanced around, and that's when I saw it. The road wasn't empty anymore. There were figures on the horizon. Slowly, one by one, they began to step into the light. A man, a woman, a child, some faded, others whole. There were truckers, faces I recognized from stories I'd heard, standing by the shoulder. But it wasn't just them, there were others, more lost souls, more passengers. And as I stared at them, I understood. They weren't here for me. They were waiting for something more. Waiting for someone to see them, to recognize their stories, to acknowledge their journey. The woman stepped forward. "I'm not alone anymore." I realized she wasn't just one spirit lost in time. She was the last one. The last of a long procession of souls who had traveled these roads. The last of the stories told on the highways that never truly ended. And now they were all here, all of them. There were no more ghosts on this road, just travelers, drifters, hitchhikers, and truckers, caught between the highways of life and death. But they weren't lost anymore. They were free. I turned to her. "Where do you go now?" I asked. She smiled, a full, genuine smile that lit up her whole face. For the first time, I saw her as more than just a shadow. She was human again. "I'm going home." And with that, she turned, disappearing into the darkness. The others followed, fading into the horizon. All of them moving on, no longer bound to the road. I sat in the cab of my truck, staring out at the empty stretch of Route 93. The radio crackled once more. "Thank you." It was her voice again, distant now, but somehow clearer than before. I looked at the empty highway, the miles ahead, and for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel the pull of something left behind. The road was silent. The journey was over. For all of us. Well, that was a ride, wasn't it? The road may be quiet now, but you can be sure there are still stories out there waiting to be told. The woman on Route 93 wasn't the only one. There are more lost souls and ghostly travelers out there, and you never know when they might cross your path. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more spine-chilling tales, make sure you hit that like button, share it with someone who could use a good scare, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next journey into the unknown. After all, you never know who or what might be riding shotgun. Subscribe. Ghost Files International before it's too late.